Hello everyone and happy Halloween! If you're going trick-or-treating, you might not want to listen to this story. And if you're still here,
I warned you.
Why did I just scare myself? So this happened on Halloween night of 2004. So the guy telling us this story saying how excited he was because he was 14 years old and his parents finally let him go trick-or-treating alone with his friends. He said that they were all excited because they were gonna do the craziest things they could never do years before. He said of course they started off by going to visit some girls from school. But then they went and got revenge on this guy who took their football when it landed in his yard and never gave it back. So they egged his house. I think that's fair. After that, they went and scared a whole bunch of little kids. Obviously, it was all in good fun though. They didn't say that they were like trying to make them cry. Like the kids were excited that they were getting scared too. He said that eventually it got a little late and they all were talking about maybe going home because they didn't see any kids in the streets anymore. He said that almost like if it was a scary movie, all of a sudden the sky got really dark and they started hearing thunder and they were like, okay, it's time to go home. He said that as they were walking, one of the friends in that group kind of stayed behind and eventually asked them to stop. I guess the reason why he was staying behind was because as they were walking, he was looking behind them at all times. So he stopped the kids and said, do you see that? They all turn around and they're like, see what? And he's like, look, right between the cars. They were all trying to look and they were like, see what? There's nothing there. And he was like, wait, just wait, don't move. You're gonna see it. At this point, they were like, what is going on? So they all start walking back to where that kid was at behind them. And they all were focusing in that spot that he was telling them to focus on. He said out of nowhere, in between the cars, walked a little kid. He said that they can see that he was dressed as a ghost because he had a sheet over him like this. He said that he could tell that the kid was really skinny, but he was very tall and that he looked like maybe he was in elementary school. He said it didn't seem like he was in their grade just by the shape of his body. So because that kid seemed so small and he was walking alone, one of the kids in that friend group said, maybe we should ask him if he wants us to walk him home. Especially because it seemed like it was about to start raining, there was thunder, they didn't feel comfortable leaving that kid alone in the streets. He said that before any of them could tell his friend, yeah, maybe we should walk him home, or no, let's not walk him home, the friend just screamed at the little boy, hey, do you want to walk with us? He said that once his friend said that, they all looked over at the boy and they could tell that he was stopped in his tracks, that he looked over at them and only nodded yes through the sheet. I'm already scared. So after that, the kid started walking down the sidewalk, almost walking towards them, but then he went in between two cars and they couldn't see him again. The guy said that when they didn't see him come back out from in between those cars, they then started walking towards where he was, but they started feeling very like eerie, like something was not right. They eventually got to where he had hidden in between those cars, but the kid wasn't there anymore. He said that they all then started questioning themselves, like, did we really see the kid, or was it just because it's Halloween and we were a little bit scared? Like, they were all questioning whether the kid had maybe gone there or not. One of their friends was like, well, I mean, maybe we could have been imagining that, but how is it possible for all of us to imagine that kid? So I don't think it was a trick of the mind. He was like, there's no way that we all imagined a little boy in a Halloween costume. He said that at that point, they just decided to go ahead and start walking home because they never saw that kid again. But on the way home, he said that something told him to look back. He said that at a distance, the little kid was behind them. And at this point, he grabbed his friend's shoulder and turned him around to look because he just wanted to make sure he wasn't seeing things. He said that when he did that, the rest of his friend group turned around too because they were like, what are you guys looking at? And they all ran to where they were to look at what they were seeing. He said that when the rest of the friend group turned around to look, they were all like running and almost laughing because they thought it was fun that this weird little kid was following them, and it was just like the perfect ending to their best Halloween day ever. However, that is not how he felt. He said that after that, the kids then started running the opposite way away from that little kid, and that him and a friend named Hector stayed behind. He said that they stayed behind because they were the chubbiest out of the group, and honestly, they would look back and they didn't see the kid anymore. He said that eventually him and Hector stopped running because they were so tired and that they started laughing because of how scared they were. So now they started walking because they were trying to catch their breath. He said that because of how foggy and rainy it was, they couldn't even see their other friends ahead of them anymore, so they didn't think it'd be worth running again and trying to find them. He said that they both decided that they should probably go home, but then they fast realized that that would mean that they would have to separate themselves. He said that him and Hector decided to walk together to the main street, and once they got there, they would go their own separate ways back to their homes. He said that as soon as they started walking, they then started to hear steps behind them from afar, and when they looked, it was that same little kid dressed as a ghost. He said that at this point they were walking through the middle of the street, but when they saw him on the sidewalk, they decided to go to the sidewalk opposite from where the kid was. He said that he stopped walking and grabbed Hector by the chest so that he can stop too, but it was at that moment that he could feel Hector's heartbeat through his hand and realized that Hector was terrified. He said that when he stopped Hector, both him and Hector looked towards where the little boy was, and that the boy stopped too. And not just that, but the boy then started reaching for the sheet because he was gonna uncover himself so that they can see him. He said that when him and Hector saw the little kid about to pull the sheet over, that is when they got so scared they started running that they didn't even care that they knew that they were gonna be tired. They just started to run. I deadass have goosebumps. Why am I scared, bitch? I wouldn't even run. I'd be with them. I'd be the chubbiest out of the group and I would be stuck with the freaking ghost boy. He said that as he was running, he still looked back and he could see now that that boy dressed as a ghost was walking towards the sidewalk where they were at, and he was advancing on them. He said that they were so desperate that they were looking around and there was no person in sight and that there was no cars passing by for them to at least stop them and ask for help. He said that they would look back and the boy dressed as a ghost was still walking towards them. He said that his friend Hector told him, "Look dude, we cannot be scared of this weird ass kid. If he catches up to us and wants to walk with us, let's just walk with him till we get home." And he had no choice but to go along with what his friend Hector said. At this point, they were walking in the middle of the street still, and the ghost boy did catch up to them, but he was a good 3 to 5 feet from them, and all he did was walk at the same pace as them. They said they kind of relaxed a little bit after like the kid didn't do anything to them, so they were just walking home. He said that when they got to the main street, Hector got really lucky because there was a bus there and he took the bus to go home, and at the same time the kid saying the story said he got super lucky because there was a taxi there and he asked the taxi if he could take him home. He said that neither of their homes were far away, but they didn't want to take the risk and have that little kid follow them all the way home. He also said that he wanted to take that taxi because yeah, that kid looks like a tiny, child, but he could very well be an adult that's just like small and skinny. He said that when Hector got on the bus and he got on the taxi, the little boy had stayed like under a street light that wasn't working, so it was the dark, and as they drove away, he looked back and the kid was still there standing, like he wasn't walking, he wasn't moving anywhere. He said that it felt like he was just observing them and how they were getting away. He said that when he got home, he got on his computer and he wanted to message the rest of his friends and see if they made it home safe. His friends did respond telling him that they all got home safe, and at some point they were kind of worried for them, but at the same time they were like, oh, this is gonna be a fun prank for Halloween. Bitch, I would fuck all of them up. So fun guys. He said that at that point he was laughing because he was like, yeah, that was a good joke. And as he was laughing, he looked out the window of his house, and outside the window of his house was that boy dressed as a ghost. Such a fun prank, guys. He said that at that very moment, he got a notification on his computer that someone was trying to private chat him, and it was Hector. He said that till this day, he will never forget that private message. He said that Hector wrote, "I don't know how, but this kid followed me home and he is standing outside my house." How can this kid be standing outside both of their houses at the same time? He said at that moment he felt like puking, but then he was like, what if Hector's pranking me? Because there's no way this kid is outside of his house when he is outside of mine. He said that he got up and made sure that every door and window in his house was locked, and he even went to his big brother's room and asked if he could sleep in his room with him, which thankfully the brother said yes. He said that after that he never mentioned this little ghost boy ever again, and that was the last time that he ever went out for Halloween. So what do you guys think? Imagine if they had stopped and seen what the boy looked like underneath that sheet. Oh my gosh. I mean, my curiosity wished that they had stopped, but bitch, I wouldn't have stopped either. Obviously, this is a translated story, so if you want to listen to it in Spanish, this is the video up here. Anyways, I hope you guys have fun trick-or-treating. Oh, bitch, imagine something happens to me. No!